following announcement has been paid for by the Wrestling Epicenter.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, guys.
Hello, ladies. Remember me? Let me talk to you, dummies.
It's now time
It's beer time. TikTok.
It's showtime!
for the longest running wrestling talk show in history.
We are huge. It's gonna be cool.
You're where it's at.
You smell like me.
Tune in each and every week.
You better keep listening, or I'll come out of your computer
And turn it on for you.
or else I'm gonna kick your stinking teeth in.
We've been known by a few names.
The needs of the many far outweigh the needs of the few.
The Interactive Interview,
Interactive interview. Oh, yeah.
Interactive interview.
The interactive interview. Interactive interview. The interactive interview.
Interactive Wrestling Radio,
Interactive wrestling radio.
Interactive Wrestling Radio.
Interactive radio.
Interactive wrestling radio.
Interactive wrestling radio.
The Blaze,
Blaze 1260 AM. The Blaze.
The Blaze.
Blaze. The Blaze Rock.
and a lot of other names.
Weekend Weird of Wrestling. The Pile Driver.
The Epa Wrestling Center.
3-count wrestling.
The Hours Lab.
But it's all one show, the Wrestling Epicenter.
Wrestling Epicenter. The Wrestling Epicenter.
The Epicenter.
Wrestling Epicenter, dude. The Wrestling Epicenter. Don't get off.
And your host from day one,
By ignorance or arrogance.
James Walsh.
Wake up, sleepyheads.
Dr. Carol House.
It all starts
What a rush. Oh, Boomer Sooner.
Thank you very much.
I got 2 words for you. Thumbs down. Breaking necks and cashing checks. Burn. I've heard a lot about you guys.
Check it out. Get out of my face. You win!
But I'm desperately out of time!
So what you gonna do when Blaze-a-mania runs wild on you?
now.
Hey guys, it is James Walsh, your humble host since the beginning, joining you for another edition of Interactive Wrestling Radio right here on WrestlingEpicenter.com. Today we're going to be joining a gentleman who will be appearing for Wrestle Stock. I've been trying to have this guy on for a while. He was the referee for the Fingerpoke of Doom in WCW when Hollywood Hogan defeated Kevin Nash in the Georgia Dome after the stalking, rape, whatever it was, scandal with Miss Elizabeth took Goldberg out of the equation. Quite a memorable moment in the Monday Night Wars. It kind of shifted the tilt, I guess would be the way to phrase it, away from WCW and towards WWE for multiple reasons. The Mick Foley winning the title and the infamous Tony Schiavone line, but also this was just a moment in time that just did not resonate with the people. Even though the NWO got back together, I don't think people dug it. And, well, there you go. He was the referee for that moment. We talk about that. We talk about the AWF, the WWF, and the rock and wrestling era. Herb Abrams, UWF, everything gets talked about here. I don't get to ask a whole lot of questions because Mr. Silverman takes the wheel for us. But it's a good chat with a legendary performer in the world of professional wrestling who is the referee. Instead of it being the typical guy, it is the typical wrestler is a referee. We've had on James Beard and Jimmy Corderas, a number of other referees through the years, so this is no exception. I invite you to hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, hit the notifications bell, let people know what you're listening to. We really want you guys to grow this YouTube channel. Help us out. Help us help you. And if there's anything you want us to do, if anybody you want us to interview, if you want us to do talking segments, reviewing shows, whatever the case might be, send us a message, comment it, do something, let us know in any way possible. Of course, check out WrestlingEpicenter.com. Check out the store at WrestlingEpicenter.com with a lot of great wrestling DVDs and merchandise that you can purchase. And they're at the best price on the internet. Guaranteed, brother. And without any further delay, let's get to Billy Silverman 2021 interview here on the Wrestling Epicenter.
Hey, this is the mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart, the world's greatest wrestling manager, if I do say so myself. and you're listening to the Interactive Interview. That's number one, baby.
Welcome back to Interactive Wrestling Radio. Joining us on the Newsmaker line right now is one of the most esteemed referees in wrestling history, a gentleman I'm happy to call a friend on Facebook and who's a lot of fun to keep up with on Facebook as well. He, of course, will be appearing at Wrestle Stock. I'm talking, of course, about Billy Silverman. Mr. Silverman, are you with me?
I am. How are you this evening, James?
I'm doing great. It's such a pleasure to have you on. I've been bugging you here and there on Facebook, here and there, to try to get you to do this for a while. So finally found an occasion that worked out for us to get you on the show.
Absolutely. I'm happy to do it. I'm happy to promote Wrestle Stock, and I'm looking forward to it.
Wrestle Stock, of course, is happening in Tampa, Florida. WrestleMania weekend. I don't know. Are we allowed to say it? Does it have to be the big event, or can we say WrestleMania weekend? Anyway, it's happening in that area, and you guys have quite a lineup appearing. Are you looking forward to the big weekend?
I am, because for me, it's going to be a great weekend just because I'm going to get to see and reconnect with so many people that I've worked with in my career and haven't seen in maybe 10 to 15 years. So I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a great event for all of us that are in the business or were in the business, as well as for the fans. I think the fans are going to really get to see some great wrestling, or some great wrestling, I'm not sure what I want to say, but people that were in the business, that have a history in the business, that people don't always get a chance to see or meet or talk to. And these guys are great guys, and I know they're all looking forward to meeting the fans and talking to them and sharing their histories and their stories. So that's why I'm just so excited about Wrestle Stock, because it's going to be a great weekend for both the fans and all of us that were in the business, so that we can all reconnect and really have a good time and really show the fans a good time.
Absolutely. And after the calendar year we had, it's got to be great to get out there and actually meet people again.
It is. I found for myself, it just seemed like so isolating not to be able to go out. I have a lot of friends and people that I just associate with. And it was, I'm surprised I never got COVID, because I just didn't always follow a lot of the COVID guidelines and rules. I just wasn't one that was going to let myself become isolated or distant from my friends because of the fact that there was COVID going on. I just really felt that, I take care of myself. I try and eat well. I wash my hands a lot, don't touch my face, and I wear a mask. So I figured, I did everything possible not to get it. So again, I'm just so excited about this. I previously, last November of 2020, even though the pandemic was going on, Scott Wilder, who is promoting Wrestle Stock, which is going to be, it's going to be a great event. If you're in around the Tampa area, you should check it out. You'll be missing a great weekend. You'll be missing an opportunity to see some great wrestlers who were, had great careers and who were in the business and, can just share a lot of their history. I think that, have pictures taken with the wrestlers and myself and everybody associated with the business. It's going to be Wrestle Stock is going to be the WrestleMania of conventions, wrestling conventions, I think. So if you're going to be there for WrestleMania, why not come and check out, the WrestleMania of conventions, of wrestling conventions?
Absolutely. I totally agree. We'll circle back to Wrestle Stock, but do you mind if I ask you a couple questions about your career?
Not at all. Not at all. Go right ahead, my friend.
All right. So I'm always interested in this. Somebody like yourself who wasn't necessarily a wrestler but was a referee, what made you decide that wrestling is what you wanted to do? This is the sport for you.
Well, it's kind of, I guess, a whole, I guess it would just be a lot of different things. My father's best friends was a gentleman named Sam Michaels growing up. Sam Michaels was the promoter for Maine and New Hampshire for Vince Jr.'s father, Vince Sr. So I was kind of always around it growing up. I mean, I got to go to the matches. Me and my father got to sit in the front row. I got to go downstairs and meet a lot of the wrestlers, Chief Jay Strongbow, Tony Gurria, Moolah, Donna Cristianello, Pedro Morales, Stan Stasiak, just to name a few, Gorilla Monsoon, Ivan Koloff. So I was always around it, and I just always watched it, and I just loved it. I just always loved professional wrestling. And then as I got older and went to college and stuff, I kind of fell out of watching wrestling and just didn't really follow it all that much. And then through another not strange event, but through my father's friend, Sam Michaels, he partnered with some people. He partnered with Mario Savoldi and Bill Witchie, who owned Witchie Sports Arena. And there were some other people involved there. And they started ICCW, which became ICW. And so I was I was around it. I met a lot of people that were involved in it, but I knew Sam's son, John Michaels, who is a state legislature in Maine, and we were friends. So again, I was around it. I was always helping, doing something. You know, I'd go and help them set up the ring. I would help them put out posters. So I was just always kind of doing stuff. And that was right after I got out of college, because I had gone to college for 4 years for a degree in business management. And so then that kind of started. And from there, I don't remember how, but I just knew I wanted to do something in the business, and I wasn't big enough, or, you know, I wasn't large enough or big enough to be a wrestler. And somehow I don't even remember how it kind of came to be, but Mario Savoldi, his cousin, Tommy Fernini, who was the referee for ICCW and ICW as it kind of morphed into, asked me if I wanted to learn how to be a referee. And I was like, yeah, sure. And so not a lot of training from him. You know, it was kind of almost like I had watched it so much that it just came natural to me. And then from there, I just started, you know, I'd get bookings through there, and then I'd get seen by other people, and I'd get bookings there. And it just really took a life of its own. It really did. And my talent, I was just very blessed to have the talent and the understanding of or not maybe the business, but what went on in the ring, to really shine. And from there, people just really saw that and gave me opportunities. Richard Herring from the New York State Athletic Commission saw me referee at a Mario Savoldi show up in Cutchers, New York, and just was very impressed with me and said, I want to talk to you about getting a New York State refereeing license, which in those days they didn't hand them out. Those were very political licenses. You had to be connected to somebody, or, you know, somebody's uncle or somebody's cousin or somebody's brother or something to that effect, to pretty much get one of those licenses. So for me to get one of those licenses was, you know, beyond like incredible. And so he helped me to get a license because he thought that I could really be a service to the athletic commission, because a lot of the referees at the time when the commission was active, there was a law in New York State where they had to hire, you know, 2 or 3 referees that were licensed by the State Athletic Commission. Most of those guys were older, and most of them, not all of them, but a good portion of them were not so great at what they did. And him seeing me being a lot younger than a lot of those guys and seeing what I could do in that ring, felt that I could really be a service to like a lot of the promoters in New York who really didn't like paying the commission for referees, because normally what would happen is the commission would book the, you know, 2 or 3 referees for each one of these shows, but they wouldn't use them. So they were basically just paying, you know, out of their pocket, anywhere between $250 and $500, depending on the gross of the show, for 2 or 3 guys to basically stand around. And so once Richard Herring saw me, who now Richard Herring actually works for the WWE, he works in their legal affairs department. He just, like I said, I'm so humbled and grateful to all that he did to help me, because he got me seen by WWF at the time, and used to book me a lot in New York. And I used to work all the way from Staten Island to Long Island to everywhere in New York City, all the way up to Niagara Falls. He would book me because they would prefer them to send me, because they could use me and I could work on their shows, so they didn't feel like they were just paying X amount of dollars for something they weren't getting any value for. Then from there, I worked in and out of the WWF off contract for a lot of time, or a long time, for many years. And then in that time, while I was working off contract through the WWF, I also was just very lucky, because people would see me on their TV. And so I had no problem getting booked through independent promoters, because, again, a lot of these, I literally owned the East Coast from Maine to Pennsylvania. I owned, and even as far as Ohio, because the referees, that even though the states that I worked in that weren't commission states, would use me and want to use me and could see my value, because a lot of these independent referees were somebody's brother, somebody's cousin, somebody, and they'd usually be somebody who was out of shape and had no idea what they were doing in that ring. And one thing I've always been taught is that it takes 3 people to make a match. It takes a baby face, it takes a heel, and it takes a referee. And without all 3 of those components, you cannot have a good match. And so consequently, they would see, these independent promoters would see me and see my work, and also they'd see me on New York's TV. So they would they would see themselves as being legitimized by having me there. And I wasn't, what I would charge them or what I would get, again, would be of value to them, because it never made any sense, or wouldn't make any sense, because they'd bring in guys from the WWF who were no longer there, like Nails, Kerry Von Erich. I've worked with so many WWF guys that when they left the WWF would go work independently. Guys, these independent promoters would book them, and pay them anywhere from $500 to $1,000. And then they'd put again, a referee who was not trained, or who was somebody's cousin, somebody's brother, somebody's something, but yet had no clue. And so it was almost like a waste of, why would you spend between $500 and $1,000 a piece to bring in 2 top names, and then put a referee in there that just had no idea what they were doing. So that's really how. And then I worked for the Asa, the Wild Samoan, who ran Pennsylvania once the Samoans left in New York, and they started their own thing. They saw me working, and they really helped me a lot. They helped train me a lot. And they booked me. They got me booked a lot. And again, I owe them a great deal. I just am so humbled and so grateful that I have nothing but gratitude for everybody that has given me a break, because without those breaks, no matter how talented you are or were, you couldn't have the career that I have. I'm so grateful to Mario Savoldi and his family, to Richard Herring, to Asa, the Wild Samoan, and all his relatives who were always so good to me and booked me. Herb Abrams, who booked me. Another gentleman out in Chicago. And
actually, that's my question. Yeah. Yeah, AWF, right?
Yeah, what was his name though? It escapes me.
Oh
I don't
gosh,
believe
I
he's
can't
still
remember.
alive. It escapes me, and I can't think of his name, and I can picture him. What was his name? I
Oh,
can't.
that's gonna drive me nuts. I seem to do that a lot to people lately. I make people forget names.
I can picture him though. I can picture him in the dressing room the first night I went there. It was out in Chicago, and it was. I remember it was. I'll tell you a funny story about it. Was he booked all these? I mean, it was everybody from A to Z was. And didn't have a really huge run as a promoter, but he used me a great deal. I'm on a box cover. You can see my face counting very clearly when he ran his only pay-per-view, which was called Beach Brawl, which was down here in Palmetto Beach, Florida. He did, at that time, was VHS tapes they put out, and I'm on the VHS tape showing my face and counting Bam Bam Bigelow and Dr. Death Steve Williams. So that was another really big highlight for me. And actually why I have a lot of gratitude for the gentleman who ran AWF was through that. I had worked with Terry Taylor a little bit in the WWE or WWF, but Terry Taylor was actually there at the AWF as I'm not sure what he was actually doing. I know he was helping with the TV, and I think he was, just kind of a general helping run the product and try and get the product off the ground. And I remember he said to me one time, he said, "Billy, I really like your work, and if I ever am in a place to help you, I will." And I thought, wow, that was really nice of him to say to me. But if I had a quarter for every time somebody said that to me, I'd be a multimillionaire, because in this business, so many people will say things to you and promise you things, and, but it never happens. And so, again, it was just, I think it was just a lot of blessings and a lot of good luck was that I had been working, again, for the WWF, and I had just come off a big run with them when they were doing the Shotgun Saturday nights. I went in and did every Saturday night. They were in bars in New York, which was the totally coolest thing. They had one that was in the train station. I want to say, it was in Grand Central Station.
Exactly.
Because I'll never forget it. There was I worked the match with Triple H and The Undertaker going up
the escalator, right? I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. That was the wildest. I think that was just the wildest thing I ever did.
That's awesome.
And then, so right after that, I worked WrestleMania 13 for them out in Chicago. Right after that,
By the way, Paul Alperstein, was it Paul Alperstein?
Paul Alperstein. Thank you. Yes, that's the gentleman's name, Paul Alperstein. That name always escapes me. So right after that, they had come to me and they said, after WrestleMania 13, we're not going to have a spot for you right now. And I said, okay. And so I did like 2 or 3 more shows right after WrestleMania 13. And then they had come to me and said, we're not going to have an active spot for you right now. And so I said, okay. But what had happened right before my last show, 2 days, probably 2 or 3 days prior to that, me going to that last show that I did, and I honestly don't remember, I think it was somewhere in Pennsylvania, I got a call from Terry Taylor, who was the booker at the time with WCW. And he said, we'd like to hire you and bring you in. And I was kind of like, oh my God, flabbergasted, because, things like that you just don't think things like that are going to happen to you. And it literally happened right the week that I knew I was going to go and do my last show for the WWF. Terry Taylor called, and from there, the rest is history. I was booked and was there for 6.5, almost 7 years, through the whole Nitro thing when everything was, the wrestling wars and wrestling was on fire. And so, I've just been beyond blessed to have the career that I had or have, to work with all these. I've worked with Bret Hart. I've worked with Sting, Flair, Terry Funk, Undertaker, Triple H. I've worked with a who's who. I've worked with Moolah and all of her girls, which was, an incredible experience. And just knowing her, she was an incredible woman. She was such a different woman outside of wrestling. I mean, in that ring, she was all business and she was tough as nails, as Moolah, but as Lillian, outside of that ring, she was the sweetest, most lovable, wonderful woman, or one of the most wonderful women I think I've ever met in the wrestling business. Lillian Ellison was a first-class act. I don't care what anybody says about her. Again, she was a woman in a man's business when men controlled the business, and she still was able to eke out a career. And she helped so many women have careers that would have never had careers had they not been trained by Moolah or been associated with Moolah's school. So I was a little troubled when they decided to not have her name associated with the Women's Battle Royal when they started going more with the women wrestlers. I just really felt that her career spoke for itself, and the woman was no longer here to defend herself. It's easy to defame somebody when they're no longer here. But I think overall she did a lot for women's wrestling, and she did a lot for a lot of women in the wrestling industry. And she was a trailblazer. She was a trailblazer, and she really, I think, was the standard bearer for women's wrestling for years and years and years. And even after, prior to her death, she was still working. Her and Mae Young, and again, her and Mae Young were probably two of the toughest women ever to get in that ring. So again, I've just been so blessed and so honored to be able to work with so many. So, and people sometimes ask me, what was your favorite match, or what was the greatest match you've ever refereed? And I can only say that everyone was my greatest match, because to say one match would not do justice to anyone that I've worked with or anyone I've had the opportunity to work with, because they were all great matches in some way, or they were great matches in a way that I learned something out of it, or that I had the opportunity to be in the ring with some of the most incredible stars or wrestling stars in the world.
Well, that kind of speaks to my next question, which was we skipped around a little bit, but I do want to cover this because this is kind of something you're very much associated with, and that is the Fingerpoke of Doom, when you're in the ring with Hollywood Hulk Hogan and Kevin Nash on Nitro in the Georgia Dome. Millions and millions of people watching, and a lot of people point to that match as being maybe one of the cracks in the foundation of WCW, because people didn't like it. I guess my question would be, did you guys, when you knew what was going to be happening, what did you think of the events, and did you think it would be as historic as it seems to have become?
No, I didn't at the time. At the time, when that was all going on and Nitro was on fire, beating Raw 83 for 83 weeks, it was such an incredible time, and it was such a mind-blowing time, because all you realize is you're being a part of something so much bigger than yourself and almost larger than life. And, and again, it wasn't for me to question. I wasn't in a position to question it, nor did I question it, nor did I feel I should question it. I felt that what they did was what I think they felt at the time was best for business at that time. Good, bad, or indifferent. That's not for me to decide, or was for me to decide. I was just, to be very honest with you, I was just honored and humbled to be a part of that, and to be a part of, being in that match, and being a part of that history now, and, being in there with Hollywood Hulk Hogan, and being in there with Kevin Nash, who were unarguably two of the biggest stars in wrestling at that time. So for me, it was just beyond an honor, and it was beyond a privilege, and it was just so incredible to be part of that match. Do I think it was a part of a crumbling in the foundation? Again, I don't know, because there were a lot of things after that led up to the demise of WCW. So could it have been? Sure. Did people kind of not like it, or think that it could have been done maybe perhaps differently or better? Sure. Hindsight's 20/20, and it's easy to be an armchair quarterback. You know what I'm saying? But when you're in the middle of it, you're just not thinking of that. And I think there was so much going on at the time with, trying to keep or maintain that 83 weeks of, uninterrupted ratings winnings, that I think that, it's hard. It's, I am, again, another one I'm grateful to, aside from Terry Taylor and Kevin Sullivan, who was an incredible mind and booker. I'm beyond grateful to Eric Bischoff, and humbled that he gave me the opportunities to work on the TV that he produced and was airing every Monday night. And I was there, and it's not an easy, I don't think anybody realizes how many people are involved and what is involved in producing a show of that magnitude every single week. And then on top of that, they branched out to Thunder. So that was another show that they had to produce. They also had WCW Saturday Night, which is another show that they had to produce. So for Eric and company to be able to produce that much TV, as well as trying to come up with storylines and, appeasing people sometimes that, didn't want to do certain things, or, didn't agree with, the booking and things like that. I think they did an incredible job. And being there and seeing it, and I was around so many great wrestling minds and so many great wrestling talents. And I don't think that people always give Eric the credit that he deserves for what he did.
Well, they're doing it now. They're putting him in the Hall of Fame, so they're finally tipping the cap to him.
Exactly, and rightfully so. And I'm surprised, not because he doesn't deserve it, but I'm surprised because he wasn't a product of WWF. He is definitely WCW all the way. And even though he had a run in WWF or WWE, I don't think that anyone really, at the end of the day, would associate him as a WWE product. I mean, he was a part of it, but I don't, like I said, I don't honestly believe. And what I was able to observe him do and everything that went on, it was mind-blowing. It really, really was. It was just completely mind-blowing to see what he created and how he created it, and just the business deals that he did to get Ted Turner to open his wallet and bring certain people in, like Hogan and Nash and Scott Hall, and guys that were really top name guys, and to get it on TV and to get Ted Turner to open up, times on his network to let Eric produce those shows. That it's just not something, because if anybody could do it, or a lot of people that are in the wrestling business could do it, they would have done it. And many people have tried and failed. One was, again, Paul Alperstein, God bless his soul, but he was not somebody I felt that could produce or understood. I think you really have to understand from a producing standpoint what it takes to produce a show. And I can honestly say that a lot of people that I worked for, Herb Abrams included, didn't know what it took to produce a show because they had never been anywhere like WWF or WCW to see exactly what goes in to producing a Monday Night Nitro. It's again, all I can think of it, my only expression to it, or my only explanation of it, is it was mind blowing. To see the creative geniuses that were involved. And I also credit the people that Eric assembled around him. Keith Leather, who was did the Von Erichs TV, and they brought him in, and he was a director and a producer for WCW. He's one of the best in the business. He did TNA for a long time, and I almost want to think that Keith Mitchell is with
AEW. Yeah,
AEW.
Sure is, yep.
I may be incorrect on that, but I believe he is. People like Craig Leathers, who was a producer there, and I can't think of her last name, who was a producer there. Christine Johnson, who's on Facebook, was a producer there. He was able to assemble some great people, and that's how he was able to produce the TV that he did. I mean, he had a great crew of TV people. He had great camera people, Jackie Crockett, and his crew of guys that had worked for his father prior to selling WCW or NWA to Ted Turner. So those people already had TV experience, camera experience, producing experience, and Eric just had a way of, I think, of coordinating it and making it all work and putting it together. So I don't know, to get back to your original question, I know I kind of got off track there, but I mean, could have the Fingerpoke of Doom been a crack in the foundation? Sure, but I don't honestly think that was the straw that broke the proverbial camel's back. I don't believe that at all. Do I think maybe it could have been done better or better or thought out better? Sure. You know what I'm saying? But again, it's easy to be an armchair quarterback or to, second guess things after they've happened. I know a lot of times, in wrestling, people would like to go back after they've run an angle or they've done something on TV and go, oh, no, that just didn't work, and wish that, they hadn't done it, because in thinking of it, or, how they were going to execute it looked okay, but the final execution of it didn't come out as they had planned. And I think maybe that was a little bit of what happened with the Fingerpoke of Doom. But you can't deny that, the two biggest, or at the time, two of the biggest stars in wrestling, even today, I mean, they're not the biggest wrestling stars today, but at that time and in history will go down as two of the biggest wrestling draws and biggest wrestling stars in the history of professional wrestling. I mean, Hulk Hogan, without Hulk Hogan, WWF would have never been what it was. I mean, he helped. Yeah, Vince McMahon knew how to promote it, and he was able. Again, he's a genius. Like, I don't want to say a genius in the sense of being like Mensa intelligent, but he's a genius as far as TV producing and production. And that's what Eric was. Eric was really a Vince McMahon. The only difference was that Eric Bischoff didn't own the company. And WCW was a TV company that had wrestling. WWF has always been a wrestling company that had TV. One of the things that really hurt Eric in his execution and in his producing the TV was the fact that he didn't own the company. He didn't have the free reign that WWF or WWE or WWF, WWE went up until whenever they changed. Vince had free hand pretty much to do whatever he wanted. He did a lot of edgy things that, and in my mind, were just too over the top edgy. They weren't wrestling, and that's another reason why I think WCW beat WWF or WWE for 83 weeks. Because WWF was just doing things that were just so outrageous and that just so many times just didn't make sense or they were just not wrestling. WCW, one thing I will say about WCW is it was produced differently. Even though Eric didn't have a lot of the free reign to do the edgy kind of things that Vince was doing, I still liked the product much better. I thought it made much more sense, because you had Kevin Sullivan there, you had Terry Taylor, two great wrestling minds, and they weren't into that edgy kind of crazy kind of off the wall wrestling, style and storylines that WWF was doing. And WCW originally was a Southern-based promotion, and it was more of a promotion that was based on wrestling and not so much on gimmicks and characters that were represented like hockey players or plumbers, and I'm not discounting those characters, or I'm not discounting their contribution to the business. I just think that they were trying to do more character-oriented things, where WCW was doing more wrestling-oriented things. And so that's why I think WCW was as successful as they were.
Awesome. Just a couple more questions because I don't want to take up all your guys' nights, but it's got to be cool to have your own trading card. And the WCW trading card that you have.
It is. It is. It blows. My mind it blows my mind, the career that I've had, and the things that I've done. I was in a movie, Ready to Rumble. I was one of the referees, and making a movie is the most just surrealistic thing I've ever been involved in, and to see it and to be a part of it and to be included into it and being treated the way I was, it was incredible. But the trading card is, they did trading cards, and I was just humbled and blessed and very, very fortunate to have them choose me to be one of the people they did the trading cards for. And I always say to myself, as long as I don't end up in the 99 cents off bin at, Dollar General or Family Dollar, I guess I'll be okay about it. I can't believe that, I've seen my card on there go for as high as $159. And that just, I've seen it $89, I've seen it $99. And I just think, wow, somebody thinks that much of me and my career and my involvement with the professional wrestling business that they would spend from $100 to $159 on a trading card.
I got to get in the garage and get my trading card out if that's what it's valued at.
Exactly. So that just blows me away. I don't even know how to really describe it other than mind blowing. And again, I'm one of the most blessed people on this earth. I'm one of the most fortunate people, and I'm just so humbled to everybody, to the WWF, to Vince McMahon, to all the wrestlers who gave me the opportunity to work with them in that ring. Eric Bischoff, Terry Taylor, Kevin Sullivan, Richard Herring from the WWE, Mario Savoldi, who gave me my break. That's who I broke in with.
I just recently popped Tommy Dreamer because I said that I was watching IWCCW Savoldi Wrestling when he broke in, and I don't think he knew anybody was watching back then, but I was there on Channel 10 in northern New Jersey watching IWCCW and seeing this Savoldi Wrestling and seeing a lot of those guys break in. So I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, it was Taz, Tommy Dreamer. Let me think. Who else came out of there? Who else was there? There were several people that eventually came out of there.
Was there, but again, he was already a huge star by that point. But yeah.
Yep. Tony Atlas, Tony Rumble came out of there, who ended up becoming a booker on his own and, running his own shows. I'm just trying to think. Phil Apollo, who was at one time a big star for ICCW. Eric Spracia, who they went on to work with NWA a little bit. Trying to think who else was there. And Mario had a plethora of stars that came through from the WWF or WWE. The Iron Sheik came through there. Again, Tony Atlas. Let's see. God, there were so many that, Brooklyn Brawler was there for a time. SD Jones was there for a time.
Greg Valentine.
God,
I did WrestleStock too. Greg the Hammer Valentine.
Exactly. So, there's just so many people that actually went through Mario's TV and through Mario's promotion. So I guess at the time I never realized what my break there was really going to lead to. And, I'm just humbled and honored and so grateful to Mario Savoldi for giving me the opportunities that he did. I mean, I would have never, ever had the career that I had it not started with, or had Mario Savoldi and Tommy Fernini not given me a chance. And so to them, I take my hat off, and I'm humbled and I'm grateful and I'm honored that now I'm part of their history too. I'm a part of a lot of people's history, and to me that's just a great thing, and it just overwhelms me with pride and joy and humbleness.
All right, so two more questions. One will be talking about WrestleStock, and the other question is, we talked a little bit about AWF, but I wanted to ask you about the round system, because as a referee, you're kind of in charge of maintaining that kind of thing, and that's what the AWF did differently. They did more of a European round system. Recently, or somewhat recently, Impact Wrestling tried to do a similar thing with their Grand Championship, or whatever it was called. But what did you think of the round system, and was that difficult to maintain for the live audience to kind of understand it?
Yeah, I found it, because I was not, when I first went to the AWF and started working there and they were doing the round system, I didn't really understand it. I didn't, because to me it was like boxing. And I'm kind of like, this is kind of weird. I mean, I just didn't, for me, I didn't feel comfortable the way it was laid out and how it worked and the timing of it. And, they would have high spots going on or something happening, and then the bell would ring. And and I think maybe that was because of the way that it was produced, and perhaps the person who was, in charge of ringing the bell or saying the time limit was up, didn't understand when to cut the match or when to actually make the, to instead of making it 15, seconds, if it's supposed to be a 15-second round, but it, something good was happening and everything, to let it go 20 or 30, just to, so that then you could cut it off and bring the people or the wrestlers back to their corner. But I really think that the American fans and the fans he was trying to lure or trying to get interest in it just didn't understand it enough. And it just seemed to not move as quickly and it just didn't seem to work for me. And again, maybe that's just me. I don't know. I just know that I don't think the fans bought into it. And that's why I don't think one of the many reasons that I don't think Paul Epperstein succeeded was because of the product that he was trying to sell or produce wasn't fully understood by the American public. That was more of a European thing. And again, I didn't really care for it, and I didn't really understand it because I thought of it more like boxing, and that's how I thought people perceived it. And again, I just don't think that the general public bought into it. That's why it really didn't succeed.
All right, so we're going to wrap up starting where we finished, or finishing where we started, if you will. And that, of course, is Tampa, Florida.
Absolutely.
WrestleStock, WrestleMania weekend. Big events happening. I guess my simple question would be, is there anybody that you're looking forward to running into that maybe you haven't seen in a while?
Oh, absolutely. Buff Bagwell, Scott Norton, the Headbangers. I love those guys. Those guys are awesome guys. They were awesome workers. I got to work a lot with them. They were around during the Shotgun Saturday Night shows. So I got to work a lot with them. The Nasty Boys are always fun seeing them at a wrestling convention. I think Missy Hyatt might be there. I'm not sure. She's always a great guest to have around. There's going to be Tony Atlas, who I have. Yeah, I love Missy. She's a great gal, and she was a great talent, and she's another one. She had a great career. I think Gangrel is going to be there, I believe. Trying to think two guys that I don't. Yeah, Tyree Runnels, who was Marlena, and was Goldust's manager during that time. And that was, that's some great history. A great character, and she was a part of that. She was not only Dustin's wife, but she was also Dustin's manager and part of a great storyline that has a lot of history to it. I'm looking forward to meeting the Ascension. I'd never worked with them before, and I'm just looking forward to meeting them and chatting with them. Chavo Guerrero. I haven't seen Chavo in probably 10 years, and Chavo's another great guy. Personally, he's a great guy. He's a great talent, and I'm looking forward to seeing him. I'm just looking forward to seeing everybody. These conventions are just a great time to reminisce and to see old friends and meet the fans. The fans are the reason we get to have these conventions, and the reason Scott Wilder promotes these conventions is because of the fans, is to give the fans a chance to really interact on a level, a personal level, with people that have had great careers and that have had have been involved in great angles, and now they're not really out of the business. They'll always be a part of the business, but now can more talk freely about things they really couldn't talk about when they were happening, just because of confidentiality clauses and things like that. And, just keeping people interested in the product. If you gave it away completely, people wouldn't want to be, or wouldn't be so hooked to what it was. I mean, even though, everybody knows it is sports center, I guess, quote unquote sports entertainment. And now I feel bad about that there really is I just don't think there's the magic that was there. Even though people knew it was sports entertainment, it's still the internet, the booming of the internet, and giving away finishes and things like that, I think have really hurt the magic of it. Because I always say this, is that I'm a big fan of magic. Like when I used to go to Vegas, I used to go to a lot of magic shows, and I know magic isn't real, and I know it's not real. When I used to watch magic on TV, there was a gentleman, his name, and I believe he's deceased, his name is Doug Henning, and he was a very famous and well-known magician. And I remember one time he was having this big special, and he was going to make a plane disappear. And he did it somehow. I don't know how he did it, and I know he didn't just, poof, make the plane disappear. But that was the magic of it. That was the mystery of knowing, wow, he didn't make that plane just poof into thin air. But how did he do that? That was the hook. I didn't want to know how he did it. And to this day, I don't know how he did it. And even if somebody told me, I'd be like, blah, 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 don't tell me. I don't want to know how he did it because I like magic. I think magicians are incredible performers. And to this day, whenever I would get a chance to go see somebody perform in Vegas or Atlantic City that's a magician, I would go. And again, like I said, it's like the wrestling. I know it's all pre-planned, and I know that there's something he's doing that we're not seeing that is making the magic happen. But the why I'm hooked is I don't know how he's doing that. That's why I want to keep going back and seeing these incredible tricks that magicians do. So that's I think a downfall of the current wrestling and the current product. And I think too it's become less wrestling based and more, I almost equate it to Circus du Soleil. It's become more high spot. Yeah, exactly. I did. I've recently moved to Florida about a year and a half ago from where I'm from, Maine, and where I've always lived. And so when I moved down here at the time, that was pre-pandemic, a lot of people knew I had moved down here, and there was a lot of shows going on down here, and I got booked for a lot of shows, and I got to work with a lot of these young guys and younger kids. I could call them kids, but they're not kids, but younger workers. And I was amazed at how flippity floppity, high spot. There was no, I remember one match I worked that it was so high spot. Everything was a high spot. It just moved at 100 miles an hour. And I just remember standing in the corner and saying, geez, all I got to do here is count. I don't even need to do anything. Once somebody pins somebody, I just count. And there was no storyline to it. There was no angle. It was just everybody out there trying to get, what they do in, that's admirable to show what they can do. But there was no, there was no story. There was no wrestling. It really wasn't wrestling. It was Circus du Soleil. And I was really disappointed that that's what the business has become, is much more, it's much more entertainment than it is wrestling. And I think that, and I hope, and I don't know, because I can't say I watch a lot of AEW, but I hope that they kind of stay more wrestling based than entertainment based.
Probably too many flippity floppities there for my liking. I'm a big AEW fan, but I agree. There's a lot of guys who do more high spots than mat wrestling, and not really telling a story. They're kind of just. There's one guy who goes by the name GMSI, which is get my shit in. So.
Oh, okay. See, and again, that's just like that. That's just kind of almost like making a mockery of the business. To me, that's just not, and I'm saddened to hear that, because I know a lot of the people that are there, Arn Anderson, Dean Malenko, let me think, Tully Blanchard, people that are there that are, I don't want to say old school, but they are, that they know how to set matches up, and they understand. They came from wrestling-based, a wrestling-based career.
Yeah, and
I think what happens a lot of times is everybody tries to chase the WWF. Don't try and be the WWF. You're not going to be the WWF. Again, the mastermind of the WWF or the WWE is Vince McMahon.
Yeah.
And he's one of a kind genius, a wrestling genius, in that he knows how to produce his product the way he wants it produced. But his product is not wrestling based. And I really honestly think that there is a place and a big market for a wrestling-based company that really wants to be known as a wrestling-based company and wants to promote wrestling and angles and storylines that make sense, that are not all the flippity-floppity or all the high spots and all the, gimmicks and everything like that. So hopefully, maybe at some point AEW will, follow that direction, or, maybe I know, and I haven't seen any of their stuff. I've just followed them on Facebook. There's a promotion out in Texas called SWE.
Right. Yes, that is good stuff. That is wrestling the way it should be. I agree.
And that's what I hear, and the way that they're doing it, and the TV that they're producing. I'm excited about it. I really hope that they succeed. But again, they've got a lot of great minds out there. They've got Kevin Sullivan there, for one.
My buddy works there. I'm proud to call him a buddy, is Rugged Rod Price, and he works there too backstage, as well as some of the global guys, the guys that were in Dallas, the James Beard.
Exactly.
And them.
Yeah, James Beard. Now, he's one of the greatest referees ever.
Mm-hmm.
And, what a mind he has and what a career he's had. So they have got, I hope one day they book me. I'd love to go out there and work for them a couple shows just to say I did it, and to be able to work for them and get a chance to really live it live and see how it is, because I really, really think that they are doing some incredible things, and I really hope they get a chance to go national with it.
I hope so
because
too.
I think that they've got the right idea, that they're not chasing Vince. They don't want to be like Vince. That Vince is their own product, their own entity, and there's never. It's just like when Vince or WWE bought WCW. There was no way that they could have ever produced WCW the way it was produced.
Right.
Because they have a whole different mindset. And, as a standalone product, WCW, even owned by the WWE, could have really continued to succeed had they kept the nucleus of it and let the WCW people continue to run it.
All right. Well,
I think that WCW today would still be in business.
It's very possible. And part of the reason that there's shows like What's Happening in Tampa is because wrestling was larger than life then. And to talk about that, and to talk about the lineup heading into just a couple of weeks from now in Tampa, April 9th and 10th, is the promoter. He is Scott Wilder. He's on the line with us. Did you want to kind of take us home, Scott, and tell us the lineup for WrestleStock?
Yeah, absolutely, James. I mean, it's kind of crazy to think we're only a couple of weeks out already. But, first off and forefront, we do have joining us some locals there in Florida. We have Championship Wrestling of Florida, who will actually have a couple tables there with us. And they do have the Cuban Assassins coming in. Also coming in with us, Squared Circle Comics, John Krauser over there in Florida with Kevin. They do some great, amazing comic books. We'll also have Bugsy McGraw at their table.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, we got a heck of a lineup here. We have Tony Atlas, Mr. USA, coming in, and Gangrel, J.J. Dillon, New Jack, Joe Abel, a local promoter there, will be there selling his book. And he's doing it as a fundraiser, I believe, for the National Cancer Society. Mm-hmm. So all the money that he raises is going to go to that. The Meat Sauce Mafia will be in town. Virgil will be at WrestleStock. Looking forward to meeting fans and eating at Olive Garden. One of my favorite places to eat, man. As Billy mentioned, the Headbangers will be there, along with Bushwhacker Luke, and just added Chavo Guerrero.
Awesome.
Also, we have Amber Nova will be there Friday only. Leo Rush will be there Saturday. Rush, yes. James Ellsworth Gilbert will be there. Bill Alfonso. Gary Wolf will be there. Demolition, Axe, and Smash. Two very good friends of mine will be there. Barry Horowitz, Mike Knox will be there. Teal Piper will be there with her tag team partner and boyfriend. I'm going to butcher his name. Demos, I believe it is. Terry Reynolds will be with us both days. Maria
Kanellis
will be there Friday only with us. Thank you, Billy. The Cauliflower Alley Club will have representatives there. We actually gave them a table to come out and help support the cauliflower.
Which is a really, really great organization, Scott. They do a lot for wrestling and wrestlers in general. They have what's called a benevolent fund, and they raise money for wrestlers who have fallen on hard times. And, they just do a lot for the wrestling community. They put on a great event out in Las Vegas. So kudos to you, Scott, for letting them have a booth there.
Yeah,
because,
a lot of their events that got canceled with all this COVID stuff. So, we asked them to come out and take a table with us to, at least to get their name back out there and get people back interested in them.
Yeah, B. Brian
and
Blair
then
does great things with that group.
Last but not least, we have Mr. G.I. Joe himself. Sergeant Slaughter will be there, actually, with Scott Weiland Promotions. And he'll be there Saturday only. Also, the Ascension, formerly known as the Ascension, now known as the Awakening, will be there. The Nasty Boys. Who doesn't love the Nasty Boys, man?
I know, because you don't love the Nasty
Boys.
What,
you don't sleep when the Nasty Boys are around, man, because they'll keep you awake. And if you do go to sleep, who knows what you won't have when you wake up.
That's true. And if I could just interject for a minute too, I'm glad that you guys or somebody's bringing in Virgil, because I think a lot of times he doesn't get the credit or the recognition that he should for what he did in the business and for the business. I mean, he was part of one of the biggest angles with Ted DiBiase. I mean, if it were not for him, the whole $1 Million Man angle would have never been what it was.
Agreed.
Virgil can wrestle. He was a superstar. I worked with him many times before he was actually S.T. Jones on the independent circuit. I believe he was trained by the Samoans, but he did whatever they asked of him, even when he came into WCW and I think he wasn't Virgil there.
Vincent.
Yeah, Vincent. He was Vincent then, but I mean, that man can bump, and that man doesn't get the credit that he should for all that.
He also did what was it? Soul Train Jones.
Soul Train Jones. Exactly. So I'm really glad that he's being brought in. I haven't had a chance to work with Virgil personally, but I've met Virgil multiple times. Really decent guy. Just trying to make ends meet like everybody else is, So, exactly. I know he gets a lot of backlash, but he's a guy just like everybody. He loves his fans. He has a great personality, a lot of great stories. And he's a good guy. Getting back to the lineup, we have the Taskmaster. I think one of the greatest minds in professional wrestling. In the business. Absolutely. And also with at Kevin's table, another guy that gets a lot of criticism I think in the wrestling world, and I think more of it's because he pushes himself. Not only is he independent wrestler, he's been in the movie The Wrestler. He's done a lot of TV series like Gotham. Andrew Anderson will be with us. The son of Alpha, the Wild Samoan, L.A. Smooth, will be. He'll be with us. And last but not least, probably one of the greatest referees in the WCW and WWF at the time, Mr. Billy Silverman will be there, shaking hands, kissing babies, and signing autographs. Absolutely, And thank you to Scott Wilder as well. You put on some great. I am so excited about being there. I'm so excited about working for you. You putting this thing on is just incredible. To put something like this on during COVID and during the times that we're in, it just speaks volumes, Scott, about who you are. I just want to say too. I mean, speaking of COVID, we're doing $10 tickets to get in pre-sale. At the door, they're going to be $20. All we ask is that people wear their mask inside the building. Photo ops, masks are going to be up to the talent. If they want allow you to take them down, that's more than happy. We're just asking you to give people their personal space, which we should have been doing long before this. Yeah. And we just want
we want to have a relaxed atmosphere, have people come out and enjoy it and start to live again.
Exactly.
And just, let's get back to some wrestling. And as my good friend Bill Acker would say, we'll see you at the matches.
All right, man. Well, everybody can find the link on WrestlingEpicenter.com to the Facebook page for WrestleStock and to Scott Wilder Promotions. And, man, I want to thank you both for taking the time to do this with me. This was a lot of fun. This was a lot of trips down memory lane. I enjoyed it. Thank you for doing it with me.
Man.
Yeah, always a pleasure, my man. Yeah, always a pleasure. Thank you for having me on your show. I really appreciate it.
You got it. I'll see you on Facebook, Billy and Scott. Thank you, guys. And everybody should check out WrestleStock. And like I said, check out WrestlingEpicenter.com, and I'll have links to all the places you need to go to buy
The preceding
tickets.
announcement was paid for by the Wrestling Epicenter.
I'm a listen, and if you like what you heard, I'm glad. If you didn't like what you heard, well, go fuck yourself.
Most people don't hung up on me.
We had a lovely conversation.
What a show.
Oh, mercy, Daddy.
On your radio dial. Don't hang up. Bye-bye.